My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
Real quick before we get into the episode, a little public service announcement. The Patreon app on iPhone, a thing has happened now. Do not sign up for our Patreon through that.
No, don't do it. Sign up using the web browser on your phone if you want to use your phone.
Yeah, if you do it through the app, Apple takes 30%. It sucks. You don't get anything extra. We don't get anything extra. Nothing good comes of it.
Yeah, they hold the funds for 75 days.
They hold the funds for 75 fucking days. Like, what a clown show company to do that. We're not in support of that. We can't opt out of it. We can't just say, we don't take subscriptions that way. Just go to the website.
Yeah.
We would really appreciate it. And apologies if anybody got by that. We did not do it or know about it until it happened.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to get anyone's money held for 75 days for no good reason.
Yeah, for no reason at all. Don't give Apple your money in that particular way.
Yeah. So use the website.
Please.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we're talking about INDIKA, which is an adventure game developed by Odd Meter Studio and published by 11-Bit Studios for PC and consoles in 2024.
Yeah, it's kind of, but not entirely. What about a dark, twisted take on Amelie? I got thinking, boy, everybody hates Amelie in this.
I haven't seen Amelie enough to know. I just know
she's
that
quirky, dude. She is quirky. She sees the world through a different kind of lens.
Does Amelie have the voice of the devil in her head?
Nah, I mean, of a sort.
Is it, or
like
is
kind
it
of
more
an impish,
like an archfey?
Yeah, more like an art devil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know how to make that. We haven't talked about this with each other than just kind of offhandedly as we've been hitting kind of other stuff that's kind of in a similar vein. Religiously talking about Heretic and the first the first Omen. So I don't know kind of what your
religious spring.
Yeah, we're having like a real bleak religious spring. No, this is a Cole pick, and I'm on my shit with this. And yeah, we haven't really talked about it, so I don't know what I'm walking into here.
Yeah, who knows what I'll say. I like this a lot. I think that it might have benefited from being more of a walking sim.
Yeah.
Then I don't think the gameplay does enough. I understand what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
In this. It doesn't matter. Like, it's still really fun, but it's fun the same way a movie is.
Yeah.
Like to me, we are purely narrative walking sim experience. And it's a really good version of one of those.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I find this very compelling. I like the writing in this a lot. I think this is really, really good. It does fire my, does this need to be a game? Instincts a little hard. And I think that the developers would say yes. I think they were trying to do stuff with the gaming nature of it. I don't think that stuff really succeeds. It feels stunty.
Yeah.
To me. But the actual like content of it and stuff is great. It's real no lesson today. It's not like it's just real bleak, which I like. But it's not, I don't necessarily know that it's that profound. It's just stuff that you don't see talked about in games often. and kind of the attitude. I liked it quite a bit. Like, it was really good to, really fun to go through. I wish it was a little bit more intentional with its play.
Yeah. I can understand all of that. I think that some of the tricks it does play-wise are kind of neat, but mileage is going to vary on that. I'm glad that you liked the story, and I'm glad that you liked the presentation, because I streamed this under the belief that it's a horror game because the Steam tagging system is a fucking nightmare.
Sure.
And it's not that, but the kind of the big thing I came away from it with is just like, oh, this is one of the most just like mature and like actually cinematic things I have played. Like in a way that is approaching like a higher kind of cinema than like an Indigo Prophecy or something is.
It's almost like a two-person play.
Yeah.
In some ways, like there are set pieces that have varying degrees of import to it, but like it really does feel like a dialogue between three characters.
Yes.
As a dramatic device. It's interesting. Again, interesting in terms. I agree with that. It's just interesting when you start framing it as a game.
Yes.
And I agree that some of that stuff is neat. I just don't know how valuable neat is. It's one of those things where like something can top out at neat, but not feel like, I don't think it's really doing much with the themes.
Yeah, it can be neat, but not essential. Yeah.
Yes. And we'll talk about the individual things about that. So you're a nun. You're a reverse Amelie, a young nun who is sent out of her monastery to deliver a letter to a neighboring church. And pretty early on, you run into Ilya, who is an escaped convict with a dead and rotting arm, who is heading to the city in order to witness a miracle that he thinks will heal his arm.
Yes. He believes it is God's plan for him. And this is kind of like a road trip movie. You're getting across this version of Tsarist Russia, 19th century Russia, that gets stranger and stranger as you go.
It's an alternate reality, and it doesn't do any clumsy exposition.
None at all. No.
About that. The characters live in this reality. It's all normal to them. At no point do they explain things in the player. It's up to you to pick up in the margins the way things are different, which is, again, that's mature storytelling.
Yes.
Like, getting play stuff out of the way, I think, is good.
Yeah.
Because it's the least interesting part of this. So you control Indika. It's a third person kind of walking sim. She sometimes has to do things that are almost puzzles. The thing I compared them to, most of them, are moving the floating piece of wood in The Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
Or moving a ladder in The Last of Us. That's most of what you do. There are a couple puzzles that have a little bit of an idea to them. They're slightly more clever than that. For the most part, though, it feels like it is just every once in a while, hey, there's something in the way, here's a task.
Yes.
That they do. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I understand breaking up the relentless dialogue. I would have, if this were a movie, you'd do that with something visual, perhaps. This stuff did not work out to me generally. There are some kind of fun set pieces to explore. Just walking around can sometimes be neat, in part because you're picking up that alternate reality stuff.
Yeah. I agree. I do not feel that like the play is super essential in this, and basically I was just going to reiterate what you said about some of the puzzles, quote unquote, having having kind of a neat hook or idea to them.
Some of them are not bad. Like some of them, like, oh, that's an okay puzzle. Nothing is a real head scratcher, but a couple things are like, okay, I understand like the point of that.
It's like texture or a wrapper to get in the way of and break up these dialogues. Sometimes there's some thematic resonance with what's going on. Like there's a little bit of like Stanley Parable stuff going on, which is again neat, but feels like it is an accessory to the successful parts of this.
Yeah.
Thing about this is Indika's not well. She has this voice in her head that is the devil. It is constantly picking apart her faith and narrating what she is doing, and sometimes is in dialogue with her. And when the devil is most active, and as things, put her under more and more duress, the space around you changes as well.
there's a alternate world hell realm you get shunted into, I think 3 times.
Yeah.
In this, and you can press a pray button to shunt it back to the real world.
Yeah.
And switch between those 2 modes to do the most like 2007 indie game puzzle platformer shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There's 2 parts in this game we'll talk about with the gameplay. This and the well in the beginning, where my stomach fucking sank.
Yeah, I was playing this when I was replaying this for the show. I was like, "Oh, Gary's hating this."
Just that. I mean, it gets better, right? Like I actually like this game a lot.
Yeah.
It's just I don't understand what this is doing. This like hell stuff. Like it's not challenging. It's not a puzzle. It's not something that hasn't been done before. You know, it's a very old trope.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like it was a gameplay hook, and then eventually everyone on the staff like lost interest in a puzzle platformer based on this.
Yeah.
And just was like, actually, our writer is really good. Let's just let him fucking go. You know, what if this had way more dialogue than almost any, you know, by percentage of any game? What if this were just characters arguing philosophy for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Let's just do that. You know, it makes an interesting pair with Sir Bronte, which deals with like a lot of the same questions.
Yes.
But I think the gameplay in that is really additive.
Oh yeah.
To that, like putting me in that situation where I feel those meters, putting me in a situation where I might have to trial and error, praying and unpraying to see what level of a 3-story building the platform goes through on. Felt crazy making to me.
Yeah.
And it happens so rarely that you forget about it. Like you get into a groove, and then every once in a while your character, like Ilya will stop and say, hey, you go ahead. I can't keep going. You have to figure out how to get past this. And I'm like, oh shit. Now I'm in one of those parts.
Yeah.
You know, time to wander around.
Yeah. I saying that they lost an interest in it does feel true.
I mean, I don't know if that's what happens, but it felt like a hook.
Yes.
You know, it felt like again, not completely unique, but it could have been a unique mechanic.
Yeah. Just the idea that like the world is broken apart, and then through this prayer, you kind of bring it back together temporarily. And like while you're in the hell realm, like you're hearing the devil rant about basically Indika's true feelings, you know, about what is going on, or kind of her, you know, self-doubts, intrusive thought kind of things. And like the prayer brings the world back together and drowns that out. But that does not feel especially well integrated with the rest of what's going on with her character arc.
Yeah. That's how I feel about it. The other thing is there's this has a foot in Stanley Parable-esque things that you mentioned, kind of commentary on video games. In a weird way. You have flashbacks when you're young. These are done as retro games. Sometimes, you know, retro pixel art just in the presentation, but sometimes explicitly in retro games, like retro platforming, retro, like there's a Pac-Man-alike kind of thing you do. You go through a Pac-Man maze. Yeah. Stuff like that. This, in the real world, in current times, you also collect points. You light candles, you find certain objects of religious significance, you get a score, but the game, and you can level up. All these things are incremental game stuff. Just tells you that, makes you get points faster. And the loading screen's like, points don't matter. Don't worry about points.
Right.
The cute, you know, and the idea of that, the way that might tie into the theme, this idea of treating a religion as a series of rituals you accomplish like a video game, as opposed to looking for any meaning in it. Like, you know, that's a thing, right? Like that is consonant with what the game is saying. It just kind of keeps doing it. It feels like it's the same underlying thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not something I disagree with or I think it's not worth saying. It's just like that part would have been good for like a Jason Rohrer 5-minute, pre-Castle Doctrine, pre-crazy Jason Rohrer, like 5-minute game.
Yeah.
Thing. You know, it's weird. I keep turning into Baby of the Year. Like, it didn't have to do the oral. I think you could have won without the oral, so that's why I'm conflicted about the oral.
The score thing works for me because it's always on the screen, and it is always shown as like a fraction of like how much you could have gotten. Yeah. So it is like always showing you come up short, and then there are like interface things that play in with the ending that would not have paid off as hard if that was just like introduced for those. So like we'll talk about that point when we get there, but
yeah,
the idea that like it's all this ritual and framework for something that does not matter too much, like materially or even in terms of like morale for these characters.
Spiritually, like goes away. Like I just think I kind of put that together a little quicker before it does the stunt at the end. You know, not stunt. That's dismissive. Before it does the graphical flourish thing. There's some joy to just the juxtaposition of semi-realistic graphics and Sega Dreamcast-esque point totals popping up and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little bit of that too. That again is neat. You know,
you know, and I think we're also kind of in the territory of like something is everybody's first time kind of deal, right? Like there's somebody who has not run into these tricks who is like really fucking wowed by it, who can get a little bit closer than kind of I think the distance that we feel when we see something that feels pretty well.
There's definitely a little bit of that, you know, like you know, there's something about having played a lot of games that are trying to play in serious spaces. You know, and seeing a lot of these kind of tricks. I think that's probably true. Yeah. You know, there's a YouTube essay on this. I was listening to the soundtrack, and one of the things that YouTube suggested was like an essay that's like the game that's bad on purpose. And like that's not, I don't think that's a good understanding of this. But two, like being like, holy shit, somebody did that. And I'm like, God, that is really old hat.
That's a take.
well, yeah, I mean, it's a very like that argument has been made since forever. You know, that's like a pre-Nier thing. Like that's and Nier, right? Like there's a lot of like, oh, this is bad and tedious on purpose as kind of baby's first critical breakthrough.
And that's also just like really focused on like the first thing you do, which is that, you know, the chores that you do in the monastery, you know, kind of thing.
Which is tedious on purpose.
Yes.
You know, but if they had just done that, like, again, I've played games that do that.
Yes.
Like that was my first really bad sinking feeling. And then the game isn't actually about that. Like it ends up feeling a little weird to include just a little bit of like, what if this was, you know, the most tedious thing in the world on purpose.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, we're actually not going to be tedious after this. It's going to be a really thrilling story. It's going to be really interesting. You just have to tank this beginning bit so you think it's a worse, dumber indie game.
Yeah. I hope when you saw that you had faith that I was going to bring something more interesting to you.
Oh yeah. You said I would like it, so I did not think it was going to just be that, and you get over it pretty quick. Yeah. Again, it's surreal how little they do of that. You walk so slowly and do everything so slowly in the beginning, almost as just like you must be prepared for pizza to eat this hamburger thing. Like I was going to say, it's like a test, but it's not testing anything you're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, there's patience in terms of like, fuck, I fell off the fish spinner again. But there's not patience in terms of this kind of patience.
Yeah. Again, you know, perform menial tasks for more rewards. It is like they hit it to demonstrate how unfulfilling the life in the monastery is, and then move you out of it real quick.
It's Desert Bus. Like when we talk about how old that trope is, of the like you're doing something tedious for a very small incremental video game gain, that's 90s. Like that, we're quarter century of that stuff at this point. Yeah. That is old. Yeah.
But yeah, this is it's a walking simulator. So we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about the story and the ideas that it brings up, because, you know, this is done through conversations about faith and choice. Sometimes the gameplay is consonant with that. A lot of the time it does feel extraneous to it. But like this is purely, I think, you know, to call it an aesthetic triumph is, I think it does it. You know, it's deeper than that. It's more substantial than that. But we're talking about like ineffables in a lot of this.
Yeah, we're talking about it like in some ways we're going to be talking about it like a novel.
Yes.
You know, the reason why that's worth saying now is because if this is all interesting to you, you don't want to just have somebody explain the novel before you read it. It's only a few hours long. Treat it like a movie. Yep. You know, sit down and have it like a movie and you'll really like it and get past that first part.
Yes. Yeah.
It's good. It's interesting. It's talking about stuff that dealing with is the wrong word, because I would feel like it would be doing stronger stuff with its play. It's talking about stuff that does not often come up in video games. And I'm not super sensitive to that. I don't usually grade on a curve just because something is about a theme. Yeah. You know, and that being rare, I think it's really well executed. You know, like just doing it, just the novelty is never enough for Gary's. I think this is actually a really well-written, really compelling. The performances are fucking incredible. Like it's really good. It's a really good version of that.
Yeah. Agreed. This is definitely one of the most interesting things that I played for myself last year. Yeah.
It's neat.
It's real neat. Visually, this is a really pretty game. Character models and animation are really good. There's kind of this Unreal 4 early PS4 kind of vibe to a lot of it, which is not me like hitting it, like dinging it. That's actually positive to me that it is not like fully like photorealistic. I think that it handles the surreality and stuff leaking in just fine. What stands out to me most is like how this is put together cinematically. Like this is very thoughtfully shot.
There's a real attention paid to the visuals of this.
Yes.
Again, in a way that is like, that only really happens when I'm not moving ladders around, which is incredible. Like, again, this could have been a short.
Yeah.
And it would have been great. Yeah. Where's this for secret level? Like this whole thing could have been a 3-hour secret level and just blown the what if Pac-Man was kind of dark, isn't it? Like just absolutely out of the fucking water.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everything does look good. It is the surreality of this destroyed landscape and not knowing what happened.
Yeah. Like
to it is really nice. And there are, even when you are controlling accidentally, sometimes there will be very beautifully framed shots you'll stumble upon. You only have limited control over that. Like most of the time that happens during cinematics.
Yes. But yeah, they're doing awesome stuff like lens work here too. Like they really warp spaces with it in an interesting way. How did you feel about the music, Gary?
It's good.
Yeah.
I like the music. It's odd. They do a lot of, there's a specific like boogie theme that's very funny. There is a lot of chiptune stuff when it's doing retro game. Stuff, but I feel like it was appropriate, did not get in the way. I actually, when I mentioned I saw that YouTube, I was putting it back on to remind myself because it didn't stick in my head too well. And then listening back to it, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is correct.
Yeah.
This works.
Yeah. It's real low in the mix. It's kind of there and it just like barely as this whisper that underlines everything. Yeah.
Before we get into dev stuff, I had this, thought just now I want to run by you. You know what game this eats the fucking lunch of?
Which one?
Hellblade.
Oh God, yeah. That pops
right?
up in that pops up in the interviews about this. Like, oh yeah, no, we like this is similar to Hellblade. They were trying to get it out before Hellblade 2. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is like this stunts on Hellblade so badly.
It does a Tony Hawk 900 over it. Like this is doing kickflips. And Air Christ, ironically enough, over the Hellblade gap.
Yeah.
But they're kind of similar in that Hellblade was trying to tell this, mature story about this character with mental illness, and then would break into very tired gameplay things every once in a while. Like they both have a really similar vibe. And I don't know if I think that like moving a ladder between two places is more compelling than Hellblade's Souls light combat. But the actual story content of this is much stronger.
Yeah. The
and kind of shows how much that can make a difference. It's stronger and it doesn't feel like mental illness is superpower, which was, part of why Hellblade 1 at least felt bad.
Yes. Yeah. We'll talk about the writing throughout the entirety of this.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, describing this, you say, oh, it's a Russian game about religion. People will think, oh, well, that sounds like the most boring thing in the entire world. Your, art house foreign cinema shit. This doesn't feel like that. This is like, it moves very quickly. The dialogue is, not light, but funny. In a lot of ways, and the
performances are very charismatic.
Yeah,
like and there's it's dialogue. It's not when I think of boring Russian art movie about faith, I think of like a close up on an apple, and then like you cut to a monk crying after 10 minutes at the end. Or something like that. Like this is all just dialogue. It's characters asking each other questions, constantly bringing up things that are very relatable and universal. So like, it's kind of impossible to be bored because they're bringing up questions where like, yeah, no, that's the interesting thought. Here's what I think about that, and their characters kind of talk it out.
Yeah,
it's very hard. It's too relatable to be that boring.
Yes. The development of this game is interesting. I pulled details for this from an article in The Guardian by Lewis Gordon, also a translated interview from app2top.com.
App2top from AOLblast.com.
This is why nobody takes it seriously. No, the interview was done by Alexander Semenov. And like, this is a weird studio. Their only prior work is a 2018 VR archery game called Sacrilith, The Archer's Tale, which I want to play.
With that sacrolith. That's something going on there. The studio's creative director, Dmitry Svetlo, is a former architect who got into making games out of personal interest. And INDIKA is a very personal game for him. He is a lapsed follower of the Russian Orthodox Church. The themes of these stories are pulled from his own struggles with leaving the faith.
Yes. No. This began in 2019. The development did with they wanted to set out to make something adult. In the sense of being mature, with
full
its
of
theme. just ropes
somebody didn't put
blasting
in the Konami code.
24/7, 360. And they had a goal. This is a game with a message behind it. They want to cast doubt on the importance of the sense of obedience and patience that religion like the Russian Orthodox Church would put into you. They are religious dissidents, or they are political dissidents. They feel like the church is this propaganda arm, and these principles. They say like, oh, this is used to make the Russian people hate themselves, so they can let hateful things happen in their name.
Yeah. It's worth noting, like up front, like this is in terms of where this lands on faith and stuff. This is in many ways like an anti-Pentiment. Like Pentiment ended up having a complicated but somewhat warm view and very like nuanced view of faith. This is not unnuanced, but this is definitely comes down pretty hard on it.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is a game that is. He mentions that this idea that the Russian Orthodox people, this religious principle trains them to hate themselves. The game is very full throated in that.
Yes. Yeah.
So do not expect this to be about, in some ways, again, also the opposite of like the end of Heretic. This idea of, it's just nice that people are thinking about each other.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe, but that's not really important right now because people are also going to do these horrible fucking things to each other.
Yeah.
So it's a Russian developed game. There's a war going on right now. Russia invaded Ukraine. It's awful. It's really gross. Following the start of the war, Oddmeter fled to Kazakhstan in order to finish production of this.
Yeah.
And all the studio is full of political dissidents. They could not hang out in Russia while that political temperature changed.
Yeah.
Things were getting worse there.
Yeah. And a lot of the developers are of conscription age. Right?
Yep.
It's like, oh, this is self-preservation. We could be pressed into service fighting for this thing we don't believe in just to get, chewed up on the front lines. It would suck.
Yeah.
So they had to go. They had signed with 11-bit before this, and in this kind of video statement put out by 11-bit, the creative director Svetlov says they would have been in their rights to cut bait. Right? Like there was and kind of continues to be this antipathy towards, things of Russian origin because of this, regardless of what the actual feelings are of the people who are involved in it. But 11-bit stood by them. They didn't ask them to change anything. It was just, no, we're gonna put our entire weight behind you.
Yeah. It's good on them.
Yeah.
Part of the proceeds help children affected by the war in Ukraine. Which is very good. There are links between this game's themes and that, what the team thinks of that invasion.
Yes.
As well. It's consonant. And boy, like someday perhaps as Americans we'll understand what it's like to be hated by the world for what our government does.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that's like, but just having a stupid government and having everyone be like, fucking Americans. And being like, I don't sign off on this shit. I'm so embarrassed by it. Perhaps someday.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're recording this in 2014. So
we got this game 10 years in advance.
Yeah, we got this game way in advance. So at some point, maybe we'll understand what that's like. I can't predict the future.
Yeah, no. We're recording this in 2000, in summer of the year 2000, let's say.
Yeah, everything's going pretty well. Yeah. I guess I was a little optimistic with 2014.
Yeah.
We're recording this in 1993. Desert Bus has just showed video game critics what it's like to do something bad on purpose. It's a funny thing to see that, God, I don't know about that whole Russia area. It's saying, we have to check the politics on that, and realizing, for a very long time, the rest of the world has had to do that about us, and fuck, I'm going to start doing it about us. And who could blame them? because it's the stupidest time to be alive.
Yeah, no, we live in hell.
Yeah, it is the fucking dumb country. Yeah.
Oh, the team knew what they were making. They didn't have a lot of expectation for sales. And I don't know what the sales were, right? Like,
we don't know.
You know, this is a game that I did not see a lot of people talk about. It did get good reviews, got an 80% on Metacritic, which feels right to me. And it got nominated for a bunch of awards, including the laughably incoherent Games for Change Award at the Video Games Award. Or Games for
done
Impact.
The change.
Yeah.
Game for Impact for the Vote Award. Odd Meter's future is up in the air. We don't know. Svetlo said that they plan to move to Spain if the political climate in Russia remains unchanged. And maybe they'll make more games.
Their website has a spot for an unannounced future project, so I wish them well.
INDIKA Fighters.
Yeah. it's a roguelike dungeon crawler.
Yeah. it's pretty surprising. Let's get into it. And again, final offboarding warning for spoilers. We're going to tell you, there's still going to be joy to the music and thinking about it yourself, but I would recommend you play the game. It's only a couple hours. It's real nice. And you want to support developers doing this kind of thing.
You do. So we start out, we're in one of these retro game kind of things. We are controlling this pixel art girl in a white dress as she falls past these upside down cities, and we're steering her into pickups, trying to raise her score.
Yeah, until we finally get to one that snaps us into reality, into realistic, PS4 era visuals. INDIKA startles, she jostles a table, and these nuns, these sneering nuns surround her and kick her out of the room.
Yeah.
This has a little bit of the film Joker appeal, where it's like, boy, people fucking hate this nun.
Oh, they really dislike her.
It's very funny how much these people dislike this girl for no reason. It's like, the first thing that made me think of Reverse Amelie was like, am I just going to hang out at this place where people hate me the whole time? Like, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, no, they don't like that she disrupts everything. They do not understand what is happening with her internally, and we get duty to carry a basket of potatoes to Sister Smaragda across the monastery, and we do it very slowly, carrying this basket, in the winter here through the compound, and everybody is super hostile to INDIKA.
Well, and for good reason. In some situations, there's a great little scene here where you walk by a ladder, and it goes up to the second floor of something, and you can click on it, because it's a video game. Like, I wonder what's up there. And you knock the ladder down, and then the person up there is trapped up there for, you knock the ladder, things are stacked up rather, so she can climb up there. I don't think it's a ladder. And then everyone's just like, what the fuck are you doing? And that's a cool bit of this, like, in a video game, you'd feel like you want to go up there.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. We get this narrator that pops in at this point. Just talking about this sneering narrator. It's so clearly a devil voice. Talking about how, you can't even say why you became a nun. You would have been perfectly fine and loved as a nun if you didn't have this voice filling your head with unchristian ideas.
Yeah. So we deliver the potatoes, and we are tasked with filling up a barrel with water from the well that is a short little walk away using a bucket. It's tedious, and as you're doing it, the voice is talking about, hey, this makes no sense. Like right nearby, there is a pump that draws up from a sacred spring, but you cannot use that for soup. There is no way that this is different water.
Yeah, no super soup. And you get 1 point every time you get you fill the bucket. It takes 5 things to fill up the thing. It is doing the tedious on purpose thing. It's desert busing. Once the barrel is full, you get there. The Mother Superior exits the kitchen, sees that the water came from you, and dumps it on the ground.
Yeah.
All that effort wasted.
Yes.
Aren't you a fool? The others are not going to eat after you. And then you get, so like this point, again, stomach sinking. I'm like, okay, this is just going to be a game where you walk slow and do things slowly and think about how miserable it would be to be Russian, at this time. Like it's one of those.
Yeah.
But you go to prayers, you're upset. And as you're watching the prayers are happening, you're looking out of the corner of your mouth, you start hearing, like a DK jungle rhythm.
Uh-huh.
I can only describe it as diegetic Donkey Kong.
Uh-huh.
Like, and you see a little person come out of somebody's mouth and wave at you for a second and then jump back in real quiet like.
Uh-huh. And then it comes out and does a little dance and jumps in the communion goblet.
Yeah. Startles you, knock over all the stuff, you fuck up the ceremony. The father who's giving the sermon drops his rod, not a euphemism. And it is, everyone hates your shit. You're freaking out. You're the person I think you should leave who like thinks you saw the little yellow pin. The pen was a little pin.
Yeah.
Never tell Indika that anything she says is interesting or good. And weirdly enough, this is the only time something this surreal happens.
Yes. Yeah.
It's explicitly a comedy beat. It again has DK jungle music. Like it's very laugh out loud funny. And putting it right after the super boring water thing, I get that to kind of set you off guard. Very measurable sigh of relief. Like, okay, like something's going to happen in this.
They were playing a joke on you. Yeah.
Yeah, they got me.
So we get title and opening credits. This looks really cool. Like we're seeing kind of the Mother Superior leading Indika out of the monastery from this kind of side dollhouse view. Kind of around the credits. And she's being led outside of the monastery. It's been more than a year since she's been blessed to leave. And now she's being asked to deliver this letter to Father Herman at the Danilov Monastery across the way. And, she is hearing this chorus of voices saying, what's in it? What's in it? What's in it? About this letter that she has.
Aren't you curious? Not supposed to look into, you're not supposed to open mail. Weirdly enough, the relativeness of a sin of opening mail is a big part of this game. So you get to the river crossing and you see Tion, the man who lives at the river crossing. He won't leave his hut to activate this mechanism to let you pull this barge across the water. He has pigs inside there bleeding, and you get along with the pigs. You're Tion, that's just, you know the names of the pigs. But he said, the animals smell this unholiness on you. He opens the door and he throws water on you. Again, beginning of the Joker movie.
And this is our first puzzle.
Yep.
We cannot ride the barge across. But when the mechanism kind of like sends it over and then draws it back, it gets hung up on something and you have to like run across the barge while it's hung up.
Yeah. Yep. You get there, an elevator across this river gets stuck. And this is our first hell sequence. You start kind of making your way through what seems like a mine, these tunnels, and the screen turns all red.
Yes.
The narrator starts ranting at you, everything that you hate about the convent, the other sisters. And when you press the pray button, which you've always had, the voice goes silent and the world comes back again.
Yes.
This is done for really boring traversal.
Yeah.
Like puzzle, I don't know how you'd explain it. It essentially Hell World is our regular world except red, and there's a big split in the sidewalk. And when you pray, that split comes back.
Yes.
And the entirety of the puzzle content of this is realizing that if you're on the other side of the sidewalk and you stop praying, you'll ride along with the sidewalk.
Yes.
It does this 3 times. At no point do I like this.
Yeah. It's pretty much just a way to hear what the devil is ranting about, because it is reflecting Indika's, feelings about this, kind of her worst self, right?
There are other dead times of this, and the idea like, you pray, where they could have put the devil talking to you. He talks to you all the time. He could have ranted at you while you're walking around. The idea that you pray to keep this away, it's another ritual you're doing, to kind of silence and subsume yourself. By the end of this, again, I get it though. It's just more than I want there to be.
Yeah.
And this is where the game tells you like, hey, stop, don't worry over lost points. We've seen a couple artifacts so far and a couple of candles in front of a picture of Christ. Anytime you see one of those, you can light it. It's not for gameplay reward, it's for points.
Yeah. Which you can use to level up and pick either something that gets you a chance to get immediate points now, or will give a slightly higher, like 0.1 modifier on the overall accrual of points.
Like combo.
Yeah.
Shit. There's like 3, it's like a little tech tree thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird thing because if that is, that's trying to say something about faith, I suppose. If it's trying to say something about games, what it's saying is simply not true.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it reminds me of that indie browser game where you spend the entire time outfitting up for things. Like it's all intro screens and you choosing power-ups and it never actually gets to the game. Like you go to power. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I vaguely, yeah.
It's a browser game that was big in I had a really big, like, I'm into art games now, and played all of the big ones.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is funny, but that's not actually how things are. Like if you're trying to make a point about something, that's not what this is. No. And like tech trees suck, but they do things. Even when they do shitty things, they still do things.
Yeah.
Just having it be superfluous isn't that, big of a Stanley Parable-esque comment on games, I think.
It's using the language of A to make a statement about B without considering if A is true in this. The statement doesn't reflect. Yeah.
Which is fine. Just it's part of, I'm building a case for why that aspect didn't land as hard for me while the rest of it did. Once you get outside, this jittery and nearly blind young soldier almost shoots at you at point blank range. He's a comic relief character.
Yeah.
He tells you, get out of here. I'm just going to end up hurting you. I'm a terrible shot.
Yeah.
You're lucky. I hear. One of the things I like about this is that unlike other walking sims, there are other characters.
Yeah.
A lot of times in walking sims like this, it would just be either you and your character or you and your devil voice. But no, this is a populated world. It's sparsely populated, but there are people who live here.
Yeah. You run into them and sometimes they yell at you when you use their construction equipment.
Yeah. I love that. That bit's very funny when you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And she has walked out into this scene. A train has derailed because the bridge is out, and it has crashed into a river. And we hear music. We hear guitar music. There is this doctor who is tending to a nobleman who is impaled on some rebar, and this soldier is playing a guitar and singing to the dying man.
Yeah, letting him have his last song. The doctor says the train's mostly carrying fugitives there. The wreck shifts and the doctor injects the noble with morphine and runs away. This is introducing one of the big themes of this. INDIKA wants to help.
Yes.
This. Very much so. And everyone around her, the doctor here and stuff, is saying, you're just going to make it worse. He's doomed and he just wants to hear this song. Leave him in peace. Stop talking.
Yeah.
There is a powerful "you cannot help things" thread throughout this game.
Yes. Yeah. So to get out of the ravine, we have to climb up this upside down schoolhouse tower that fractured and then just kind of like tipped over. And to do this, we have to push around a safe to change the weight distribution so that the tower will tilt in a direction where a piano will roll up against a window.
Yeah. On a floor below you.
Yes.
You think you have to climb the safe. You can climb the safe, but that's actually just weight to move the puzzle below.
Yeah. And the only clue that something happened is you hear every time you do it, you hear like a big piano scare chord kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. Or if you check that small room, below, you can see what that is, but there's not a whole lot of reason to go off the beaten path in this. You hear this woman screaming from this nearby house, head in there, and a man is in the middle of assaulting her.
Yes.
And the voice, you're going to go, again, you want to help. The voice tells you to stop when you go to interrupt this and go to save her. Yeah. And the voice calls out your motives, not just saying that you're not going to succeed, but you're not doing this because you want to help. You're doing this because you want to be a hero.
Yes. And she responds chastising him, of course I want to help. And the devil says, since when did you listen to me? But she listens to him. She hides in this indoor outhouse kind of thing in the bathroom here. And the man comes out to investigate the sound. And the voice taunts INDIKA about, just the prurientness of seeing the act, asking maybe you wanted to join in.
Yeah, it was sex assaulting the lady.
Yes. Yeah.
Not regular assaulting. And just being like, you're a nun. Maybe this got you up. That's going to be a sub theme throughout this as well.
Yes.
And then a demonic hand pops up, the cool little interface thing. Like we see this, it looks different than the other art, and pulls her out into the hall.
Yeah.
Taking over her, making her step out into this. The man is about to attack her, but a young soldier with a wounded arm pistol whips him.
Knocks him out.
And this is our secondary protagonist here.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Ilya. Ilya's in a really bad way. You don't get a real good look at his arm until it's off of him. But it is bad. And he, has like a soldier's coat kind of over it, and he's holding on to in his dead hand a cup, like a mug. That has, we're going to learn the significance of that. But we follow him. We follow him out onto the road, and the soldier and doctor pull up on a mechanical bike sled.
Yeah. Great little, I'm sure things like this have existed before, but it's not common technology. I love it when it's, something is doing any kind of alternate history, and it's like, maybe this is how people got around.
Yeah. Like,
this weird contraption,
like a weird little like putt motor moped thing.
Yeah, it seems sick as well.
Yeah,
the doctor calls out. The doctor's trying to capture him. This is obviously one of the escaped fugitives. But Ilya shoots back and holds you hostage to take control of the bike. And Ilya's not doing well, and you're basically along for it. That is kind of the framing device for most of this, the implication that you're being held hostage. And one of the things I love about it is that neither character really believes this. They only invoke it when it will explain their motivations in a way that something more embarrassing is the truth, but they don't want to say it.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is a consistent thread throughout this. It's really good.
Yeah. Like, and even here, it's just like a real half-hearted hostage holding. you know? Like just something about the action in this is it is so clumsy. Like, like nobody is ever very good at what they are doing, and nobody responds to things in a correct way. It kind of upsets your reality in a fun way.
So he tries to get on the bike. He can't ride on with one arm. So he directs you to be the getaway driver.
Yes.
We do this. The nerd soldier chases after us, shooting at us, screaming, missing.
We're controlling this the entire time, and he just keeps on, like, he'll never catch up to you. He just keeps on tripping and falling.
Yeah. You can fail this by hitting hitting the snow and stopping. So he doesn't catch you, but you can get a fade out.
Yeah. And Ilya is struggling. You can watch him trying to reload the revolver one-handed. And then he just lies down.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
We stop at one point, or don't we? At one point, don't we crash? Oh, that comes up later.
Yeah, that's later.
We stop and we give him an injection of morphine from the doctor's bag.
Yeah.
For his arm, and we have him get on the bike with us. At this point, he'd fallen off. He was hurt. And at this point, there's no even like barely a pretense on her side that we're a hostage. Like, come with me. It's either me or with them. And we do. And INDIKA starts teasing you about being hot for him.
Or the devil does.
The devil rather does. Yeah. The, Syndica, as I like to call him, starts saying like, oh, he's big and strong. You want this. And she eventually responds out loud to the voice. Ilya's asking questions, and she ends up interrupting him because she responds to the devil. And this makes us lose control of our bike and we crash.
Yeah. And we get the first retro game interlude here. Of INDIKA's past, before she was at the monastery. Her dad is the owner of a bike shop. This came up, Ilya asks, how do you know how to work this thing? Like, oh, my dad used to repair these things. And he has brought home a new bike for INDIKA, and we race them. This is like a top, like it's like an isometric racer kind of thing.
Yeah. He crashes because he's drunk. He says, hey, go get some tools to fix the bike. You take the bike, you go to the shop, and this young man named Mirko is waiting for you. And he badmouths the bike and eventually pressures her into letting him take it for a ride. And he rides off on it. And all you do is wait, stand there until the sun goes down. Your dad walks his bike back. He got up. It's presumably supposed to be a longer walk than it seems.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is, an early indication of INDIKA letting people take advantage of her. And then also this kind of helplessness.
Yes.
That is, again, the theme, people telling her that nothing's going to help. Nothing is going to help. She just stands there.
Yes.
Like, well, what can I do? Then you go get your dad.
Yeah, probably.
There are things to do. INDIKA, come on.
Yeah. So you wake up, and INDIKA looks at his arm, looks at Ilya's arm. It's withered, black, it's infected, rotting. She says, hey, you're not going to survive the afternoon unless I amputate it. Like, this is really bad. And then Ilya says, that's what my prison doctor said a week ago. But we didn't have surgical equipment. Like, I should be dead right now. And this is a miracle. It's supposed to be this way. He's been talking to God.
Yeah. The idea that I haven't died yet is important.
Yes.
Capital I important. It's worth noting that INDIKA is not medically trained in any way.
Yeah.
Her making, saying like, oh, we have to amputate this, and then later doing it in the least sanitary way possible is, I don't think that we are meant to think that this is, she's one of the things that it's easy to forget in this game, I think, is she's young.
Yes.
This being a very young adult, I think, is important to making not only like framing her decisions, but also the questions she's asking. Like, part of the tragedy of this character is that she got shunted into this life before she had any idea what it meant. And that is because she would have gotten there. She's inquisitive. She would have gotten there. She would have realized this wasn't for her. She just didn't have a chance to. And the way that this kind of religion, this doctrine, these rituals can kind of freeze you in place and you kind of stop growing. You don't need to anymore.
Yeah.
Stop asking questions. You don't have to anymore. And this has led to her thinking things like, I'm a doctor, because she's a kid.
She's 17, maybe.
Yeah. Makes sense. It would make sense that I got to amputate this, looks bad.
And if she does know anything medical, it's probably just from the books. I think at some point she even says like, oh yeah, no, the nuns help sick people or something like that. Yeah, but it's not like actual rigorous training.
It's not surgery.
No,
it's not amputation. And again, just the way that she ends up doing it later is wild.
So we get back on the road. Ilya says, I saw God's plan, like in the water, in the reflection on the water in this mug that I'm holding. He is talking kind of in this like real half-baked, almost like desperate way about how he feels like he is moving according to it. And this is setting up this dynamic where INDIKA is the skeptical nun and Ilya is this criminal who is a true believer, even if he hasn't thought it entirely through.
Well, and if he's dying of infection and fever and stuff too, he talks about it. He misuses the parable of the prodigal son, saying, the murderer and bandit son got the money because God is happier to see one repentant sinner than have somebody be perfectly obedient. Even the character who is more faithful in this is pretty cynical about God.
Yes.
Yeah,
but he's identifying with the story, right?
Yes.
It's like, a conversion needs to mean more, right? Because you had further to rise if you were fallen, rather than, like, oh, the son who stayed didn't get the big feast or whatever because he got those. He lived there. Like his reward was being in the house. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not what the story's about because that's not a very good story.
Yeah. So we reach this broken down carriage that's blocking the road, and we have to do some ladder carrying to get inside of a shed and get a wrench to kind of bust loose the rusted brake.
Yep. You get the carriage loose and you hear a wolf howl, and then a wolf comes out, and it's like a mutant wolf. It does look like a bloodborne wolf. That's what I thought as well. Like, it does not look like a dog. No. They keep referring to it as a dog. But it's a scary werewolf thing.
Yeah. And INDIKA's reacting to it like it's just a little doggy. Like, I think she was here, boy. It's but it's dangerous. It's attacking.
Yep. So they have to get away.
Yeah.
They run away, they get inside this barn, and INDIKA says, if God could stop you from dying from your wound, why didn't he just heal you completely? At this point. And he pulls out a flyer for something called the Kudets, which is a relic that's going on tour that promises to heal all physical complications and afflictions of the soul. Relics going on tour was a real thing. Maybe it still happens. But this is, if you don't know, they would tour like museum exhibits, except you go and do hope to have magic done on you with them instead of just seeing the early works of Rothko.
Yeah. Either people went on pilgrimages to see relics at actual places, see Pentiment, or, these
or
relics.
Or they came to you.
Yeah. And they came to you.
It's you use Relic Dash. And
it's nice. It's like the Smithsonian rolling out Archie Bunker's chair.
Yeah, like going on a tour.
Yeah.
They used to have dead presidents and shit too. Like just Lincoln going by train.
Yeah. INDIKA pokes holes in this, saying like, okay, so why would an all-powerful God need to heal you through this tool?
Yeah. Like, why does any of this make sense? And a lot of this stuff, if you are somebody who has spent any time doubting faith, these are 101 level questions.
Yep.
You know, like none of that they're saying is very profound. The artfulness comes from the way that the characters express the dialogue. Like no character is making strong arguments during this. The argument comes from the characters talking about this and then the world they live in and the reality of what happens to them.
Yes.
Them being proven right. Like this is a powerfully cynical game about God and faith.
Yes.
More so than I am. Like I'm an atheist. Like I don't believe in God. This game really, things are awful and bleak and cannot be good. And thinking that they can be good or better is foolish and will get you hurt.
Yes.
Is part of, you know, what the takeaway from this. This is a hopeless world.
Yeah.
As a thing. So it's not, it sounds like we're just describing like, oh, it's the back jacket of a Dawkins book.
Yeah.
And like parts of it, you know, why wouldn't God just fix this? Why would he even need a superpower, you know, doodad? Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
You know, this is good. We're drawing attention to the artifice of this because in the end, we're making a point about the nature of life.
Yeah.
At this more than anything.
Neither of them are making good arguments, but I love what the particular flaws of each argument say about the person. Kind of like Ilya's misreading of the prodigal son, right? Like, okay, like this is, you know, he's personalizing this, you know, and INDIKA very clearly, like these are her words, but they're coming from this kind of externalized voice that she is trying to deny, this devil in her head. Right?
Yes.
You know, like these are arguments that she, you know, has heard made to her internally her entire life at the monastery and who knows how far beforehand. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to get light on what that is.
Yeah.
You know, the degree to which that is just her or whether that's any kind of force later. The thing to remember is also Ilya is very young. You know, so this makes sense for people who are new to faith, regardless of their level that they're at now, to be asking these questions.
Yeah. But yeah, he's, you know, doing these mental gymnastics about this, saying, you know, like, oh, it's about the path, you know, and a person can't be saved against his own will, kind of getting around to like, it is the journey that saves you, not the actual, you know, miracle in and of itself.
Yeah. So that is why God put magic objects in different hard to reach places for you to find.
Little collectibles.
Yeah. Little collectibles. You know, INDIKA says like, what am I doing here? You know, basically. And we get this really menacing shot from this this room that is growling. She's framed by the door, you know? And we cut back, you know, INDIKA hoist Ilya out of the window to do this, to try to, you know, continue. They're just trying to make progress at this point. Things are kind of destroyed.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
Yeah. And then you climb up this impossibly high tower in the barn. You keep going up, you know, there's always more floors and there's a door that is always locked on each one.
Yes.
And the narrator says, you know, oh, the cadets being so nearby can't be a coincidence. You know, like you should go with him to Spasov, the city, you know, nearby where it's going to be. Go with Ilya there instead of delivering the letter.
Yeah. I love how much of an afterthought the letter is. Like we talk about the letter later, but just this idea of, you know, oh, I thought there was going to be a letter quest. It has nothing to do with that.
No.
Does not matter.
Yeah.
This conversation, you know, turns into this kind of relative weight of sins conversation that I think is neat. You know, is, you know, regarding which is worse, like reading the letter or just not opening it.
Yeah.
You know, and just, you know, this idea like, oh, like is losing it rather,
yeah,
you know, not delivering it. And you're like, well, one of those is certainly worse. And the devil goes, okay, what if a mailman lost 1,000 letters? Like, how bad is that? You know, at what point does it equal a murder?
Yeah, we'd have a murderer on our hands. You know, just like by setting one of those above another, you inherently say something that kind of needs to be quantified. At least according to the logic of the devil, you know, and it could be extrapolated out. The logic of a lot of
major world religions as well. Like, you know, this idea of this sin is worth this much repentance.
Yeah, yeah.
Like adding a D&D second edition chart to sin and repentance is classic. religion. And this is, drawing attention to how silly that is.
Yeah.
Because once you have a unit of measurement, like you can start doing division and see how many murders or how many, a lost mailman is equal to how many murders.
Yeah. There's a reason that this ends with her rosary breaking apart.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And the voice, tells Indika not to open the letter, which gets her to open this. This happens like you reach the top and it's locked and you have to go back down to get to a door that is suddenly open now. But he pulls the old reverse psychology on her. And she opens it and the world shatters. And the voice is laughing at her, mocking her, saying like, oh, the abbess had you totally figured out. The letter is addressed to Indika, not to this father, saying, hey, you're being defrocked. We knew that you would disobey us and open the letter, giving you the news, so that you're kicked out.
Yeah, don't come back. The voice rants, kind of mocking you for getting kicked out of everywhere. You try to belong, and there's two places: your home and church. But again, this isn't her internal monologue.
Yeah,
and we navigate through the hell realm. This one, since it's a barn, there are these big, scary corpse versions of slaughtered animals that look good. The platforming is not good, but it does look neat.
Yeah. And when you stretch or compress the world, part of the way, it's the pathways that are broken, but also when the cow comes apart too, which is a neat touch.
Yeah, looks nice. You make your way outside. Indika tells Ilya, listen, I'm going to come with you to spaz off. And the voice says something, she thinks that the Kudets will make the voice go away and you can be forgiven and taken back in. Oh, you're just doing this because you want me to go away so you can go back to the church.
Yes. So both of them are hoping for a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though she is going to be poking holes in the idea that this is capable of doing miracles the entire time.
Yes.
Yeah.
We head to this mill-powered paint factory. It was abandoned after an explosion. The characters talk about it.
Yeah.
Do little The Last of Us physics puzzles. To get into it. And then we get a chase sequence. The dog reappears and jumps into the water, leaving us alone. Or he's going to pop back up later to chase, rather.
Yeah. He's just, he's on the trail is what it is. This is going to be a chase sequence.
Yeah.
We have to turn the elevator on. We need to fix the mill. We have to put a cotter pin back into it so we can raise the elevator. Then we have to ride this counterweight up to reach the upper levels.
This is exactly the caliber of puzzle that's in Amnesia: Machine for Pigs. Where there's a thing missing a gear, and then the gear's on the other side of the room. And are you a bad enough dude?
Are you a bad enough dude to match the shape of this beam to the hole that it needs to go in?
Can you pick this up? Can you click on this? I really hate that shit. I do not think this works. And then once we do this, we go across this. We're balancing across, and the dog attacks us. One thing I will say is the balance mechanics on this are actually kind of tough.
Oh yeah, no, that
never happens.
This is really hard. You can't go too fast or slow forward because that affects it.
Yeah.
So just standing still, that'll fuck you too. Yeah.
It's the standard video game, balance, hit A and D to in the right amounts, but it's actually pretty rigorous. But then it's a chase sequence, like a trial and error kind of chase sequence through this. And again, I'm not going to keep harping on this just when it pops up. That's beneath this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It bummed me out. It wasn't that hard. This didn't take me a million tries or anything. I fell off the balance beam once. I got into the room once and tried to push the thing you're supposed to climb onto in front of the door, thinking it was a different video game cliche, and that's incorrect. But it's just trial and error being chased by a thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
No. It's just there as a pace thing, right?
Yeah.
And
it's not particularly exciting.
No.
Did not break up the pace in a good way. I do like the dog gets stuck in this mechanism, gets stuck in the wheel, and we keep seeing it go around this wheel, going even under the water.
Yeah.
Getting its head knocked on this thing. It's very sad, this demon dog that's been chasing us.
Yeah.
I like that. Again, when it's visual, when it's doing the language of cinema, it actually works really well.
Yeah. All of that was just a setup to get the dog stuck in the mechanism, getting beaten by the machine over and over again and being dragged through the water, as the camera tracks around it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which again is very good. I just didn't need it didn't need to do the oral.
Chase. Yeah. They didn't need to do the oral.
And I'm conflicted because they didn't need to do the oral.
But Indika and Ilya are having a conversation just about dogs and souls. Indika says, dogs can't sin because the devil doesn't tempt them to do bad deeds. It's what humans do to them. A dog can't hurt or kill somebody. It's humans who put them in a situation to do that. And the voice is finding that distinction curious. Everything that could drive a dog to kill, out of hunger or desperation, is something that can also apply to a human. And Indika doesn't have an answer for this.
Like a human could also put another human in that situation.
Yeah.
To do that. Again, good question. And no answers. We just leave that. We get to this train depot that's behind this factory, and we have to cross to the station using a cargo crane for this. We hop onto this row freighter that's going by, row being fish eggs here. Really gross.
Yep.
And Ilya points out, like, listen, it's weird that we're just talking about questioning faith this entire time since you're a nun, and she starts out saying, those aren't my ideas. And then says, I didn't exactly want to be a nun. The second one of those is closer to the truth, I think.
Yep.
And they vaguely talk about what led Indika to becoming a nun.
Yeah.
At this point.
And she just says circumstances, and Ilya doesn't really believe this. Like, oh, circumstances, you're so young, right?
Yeah. We get a retro flashback, Indika origins. She's in bed. Her father says, tomorrow's the big day. Sava Ilyich is going to propose to you. It's a good family. It's going to help us out.
Yeah.
But somebody throws a rock with a message through it, through her open window, saying 1 star is missing from the sky. Come to the roof. And this is Mirko. We have to do platforming up this building, timing-based stuff.
Like taking little leaps of faith. You have to jump you have to jump before the platform is there, hoping that it will be there when it gets there. But all of it's rhythmic.
Yeah. You reach the roof, and it's not your fiance. It's Mirko again. Indika's very angry, and is about to leave, but he plays her a flute melody. He said he wrote after he met her, so she stays.
Yes,
she the first blush of young love.
And we wake up in the fish factory.
Yes,
in Spasov. This is a place where Ilya's mother used to work. They're riding in this cargo car and hiding from the workers, and this mechanism unexpectedly tilts and unloads them into a big stinking pit of caviar. Yeah. And this is horrifically gross, but also Ilya says, oh, the smell reminds me of my mom. She would come home from work and she could never get it off her, but I love it.
Yeah. She tried to cover up perfume, and that's the scent I hated.
Yes.
Where is she now? And he just goes, I don't know. Again, just that kind of good Russian bleakness. We're not we don't know.
And it's like unstated. Like, okay, is she alive? Is he thinking heaven or hell?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
There's an industrial oven where the fish that are really big are roasted on these spinning racks. And we get, this also made me roll my eyes. I don't like the gameplay sequences in this, where you're on a spinning, fan blades basically, with fish laid out with little, kind of like that Japanese game show where you have to fit through the shape.
Oh yeah.
Except
Takeshi's
it's for
challenge or whatever.
It's not Takeshi's challenge. There's a different one.
Oh,
I ended up watching Takeshi's challenge, and it's different. But there's a different one. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
but you know what it is. Like the fish come at you. There's one gap missing. You have to make sure you position yourself where the gap is.
Yeah.
You have to do this over and over.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I'm sorry to keep harping on it.
No.
I can just say like, oh, the gameplay parts are bad of this, but like, I don't get it. This did not make me feel closer or better with the work.
No. It just kind of feels, it feels like it is there to justify the medium. And
yes,
I was looking for connections between, what they were talking about and, what you're doing. And like in times like this, I couldn't find anything. If it's there, it is so abstract and disconnected as to feel basically coincidental.
You run into the thing where you can treat any work like it is an exercise to see if you can fill in something that will complete the equation. And like, sure, if you have to, you can put a gun to my head. I'd be like, justify this. I'd be like, well, navigating faith is tricky. And, so you have to navigate these holes. It's like navigating the rules and the faith, and then also loaves and fishes. And like there are people who probably are like, that's enough. And they're like, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. But in the end, it just ended up feeling like a really tired, like video game thing to do in the middle of this that ended up not, if that was the idea, it was not enough and it was not sold well enough for me.
Yeah. It's taking me away from what I love about this. And it feels like it is just there to justify the medium.
Yeah. This game is very interesting to think about in terms of, pacing and how games, even games that are not like this, how they break up pacing.
Yeah.
Something I think about as a perennial example of that, where I like it, is always the downtime Deus Ex bits. You're UNACO, you're in in Japan or in China, and you're kind of going around talking to people for a little bit between dungeons, and there's exploration, you can do things, you get a little bit of the story and stuff. And that really works. If the parts where you were playing it were not good, I think that would make the break parts worse as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, but this sucks. You navigate between the gaps, you get to the other side.
Yeah.
And eventually there's a fish bar with no gaps. It knocks you to the ground. I got an achievement for this, for not dying up until this point. It's like, cool. And fell into this cistern full of brine. You're soaked and it's cold. It's winter out.
Yeah. And they have they fish themselves out and then run to a furnace. And Ilya says, hey, take off your clothes. And she takes that as an advance. But no, like, just say, you need to get your clothes dry or else we're going to die. So they put up a sheet to kind of separate themselves and they, dry themselves against this furnace.
Yeah. And INDIKA is enjoying being naked, like not being puerile. She's just like, oh, this is great. I can't believe I got to take off my wimple. Like, the dean at the Abbey is this warden. We have to wear this even while we're sleeping, and it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Super itchy.
Yeah. And Ilya looks over across the sheet that separates them, and they kind of share a look. Like, we're both young and human. We're attracted to each other.
Yeah.
But INDIKA says, the smell coming off your arm is unbearable. Like, we can't do anything about this. It's time to go. And if you can smell that arm over everything else in this spot, that's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
This has to be, every once in a while on dispatches, somebody will be like, what's the smelliest video game? Like, location or situation? This has to be up there.
Yeah, it's at least getting an honorable mention.
They like fell in that fish brine and they just dried their clothes. They didn't wash them. So they have dry clothes that have been like soaked to the brim with roe and brine.
Yeah. All this just kind of fish matter. Yeah.
Really disgusting.
Yeah. Add on to that a rotting arm.
Yes. Super, bad arm is, really gross.
So Ilya asks, like, hey, so was the monastery your choice? And, they have this conversation about choice and free will as we're walking through these hallways full of machinery. These are paths that are kind of like have branches in them, but go to the same place. It's not especially underlined. It's not like them saying like, oh, like it kind of seems like the choices we're making here don't matter. Do choices in real life matter? It's just something that you do as you are walking to give them time to talk about this.
Yeah. A similar thing happens in BioShock Infinite. As much as that's a horrible game, it does a very similar thing.
Yeah. And INDIKA says like, yeah, it was my choice, but is there really a choice if there's a reason for it?
Yes. Yeah. They start talking about kind of free will. Ilya makes a case. He says, free will controls your passions, so that overlay of the logical framework is the overlay of the logical framework for your decisions. Kind of pushing this back. And they go back and forth, this. And Ilya, who is, again, not well and is experiencing religious visions and stuff, every once in a while pulls out these weird little beautiful non sequiturs that kind of come out of nowhere that advance the conversation in a way I like a lot.
Yeah.
And I kind of just in the middle of nowhere, unprompted, is like, how the fuck can somebody live without a soul? Humans haven't learned that yet.
The yet on
it's just
that?
like, oh, yeah, that's real good.
That's so good.
It's a good lyric, man. You're cooking.
Spitting bars. Yeah. And Indika says, why would God need our so-called freedom if in the end he's only satisfied with strictly defined choices? He could have made me in a way that he could have liked me, right?
Yeah. Shades of the same conversation before, this idea of the dog.
Yes.
Right? Or not the dog, the prodigal son thing, where like if the root of this is that God would do this because he wants you to fall before you choose him.
Yes.
It's not portraying God particularly well. It's portraying God as very petty.
Yeah. That's a real Job-like vision, which is he is either subjecting you to these horrible things or just letting them happen. And that's explicitly called out.
And he could just not. And he could also just make you faithful.
He could make you faithful. He could make you in a way where you were accepted in the community where you were, just like, but
he could have made Ilya not have his arm. Like, he could have done all of this stuff.
Yeah.
This is very rabbi. Like this is the kind of shit that like rabbis talk about.
Oh, and I'm into it.
Oh, like, me too. This rules.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about it. It's funny because it's like, on the curve of stuff that's talked about in a video game, this is nothing. Or this is everything, rather.
Yeah.
And the curve of something talked about, like me and my friends at the Junction eating place in 2000, this is very, like, of that.
Yeah.
It very, very usual for that and very unusual in the context of a video game.
Yeah.
Like, which is part of why it's so refreshing.
Yes. Like, if you're holding this up against the best theology or comparative religion that was ever done in any medium? Of course not. But like for a video game, come on.
For a video game, pretty special.
Yeah. So you reach a kind of this break room, and Ilya sees this guitar. Previously, he had wanted to pick up a guitar, but when they were being chased, but Indika didn't let him do it. He picks it up and he starts tuning it. And he says, like, "Oh, I used to play really well. I even played at this one particular tavern here in town." And Indika is very curious, like, "Oh, can you play something?" And Ilya just kind of looks at his arm and like, "Oh, how can I?"
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah,
again, she's kind of smitten. This idea of a boy playing music for her. Happened. It worked before.
Yep.
And I love the reveal with this, him playing at the bar as well. That comes at the end. Just as a kind of like, everything's fucked. So we reach a wing of the factory where these huge fish, surreally big fish, are being, the surreal big fish, the Dada ska band, are being processed.
Yeah.
And we see these humanoids moving around in these suits. Big, kind of moving mechanically in really, really puffy, kind of protection suits, like almost radiation suits.
Yeah.
This is great because that's all we get of this. They don't acknowledge us, and Ilya's like, "I've never seen those before." The end.
Not them before, those before.
Yeah, those before. The end. Great. Perfect. A plus.
We get a puzzle here where we have to try and get across this elevator shaft, but we have to move the two elevators in such a way that it creates a bridge. Some floors you can get into and out of, some you can't. This puzzle. Yeah.
Yep. Very, very standard. Ilya says, listen, if I was the Tsar, I wouldn't want a slave girl for a wife. I'd want somebody to genuinely love me of their own free will. Again, playing into the God conversation earlier. Indika counters, said, if the Tsar said, love me or I'll put you on a hook and burn you, instead, like, is that really a choice?
Yeah.
Like, if you have to love him in order to stop from being burned alive, is that a choice?
Ilya counters saying, well, it's not him. It's not God who's burning you. It's the devil. It's, the enemies of man, who are doing this. And Indika revises it saying like, okay, say it's love me completely, or I will let this person who for some reason I can't stop. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm not necessarily doing it, but I'm going to let it happen. Is that a choice? And Ilya questions, says, do you think it's possible for someone to love God genuinely? Again, interesting question.
Yeah.
This idea of, faith for fear of consequences, right? It's one of the things that is something that stands between me and religion is this idea of the stick.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a good religion would have the stick.
I cannot believe in hell.
Yeah, cannot truck with hell. And part of what makes me skeptical of religion in general is the idea that hell is so pervasive.
Yes.
As an idea.
Yeah.
Like there's a version of faith that if had been sold to me and if the world exhibited it, I am okay with and would feel more okay with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I cannot get it down with this idea of like, well, it's somebody telling you to love him or he's going to let hell happen to you. There's no choice.
Yeah.
You know?
The performance on the, like, wait, do you think it's possible for someone to love God genuinely? Like, he is asking this, like, you know, she has revealed something that he finds incomprehensible. And he's like, actually saying like, wait, are you for real with this?
Yeah.
And Indika, like, you know, she doesn't continue. She just kind of backs off. She just says, well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost like she doesn't want to like disappoint him or, you know, make him think negatively of her.
Or just crush him.
Yeah.
Like he's on his way towards this super relic.
Yeah.
That's his only hope of getting his arm back. And he's a true believer. He believes that God is the only thing keeping him alive right now.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, there's a little forklift puzzle here where you can use a forklift to move cans of caviar around. This counts as a puzzle to me. You can't just use the cans. You have to actually use the forklift itself as a stepping stone. I was like, oh, okay. I had a feeling of intuitiveness or like intuitive leap.
Yeah, yeah. Just, good. There's no option. Oh, but like it's at the perfect height for me to climb up on it. Okay, neat. Yeah. I like this as well. And when we say cans of caviar, we're not talking about like tuna cans. We're talking about like they're gigantic
barrels.
Like they're like, I mean, but they're still the shape of tuna cans.
Yeah,
they're still like roughly that. So like it comes like halfway up. It comes up to your waist. That's
tuna for giants.
Yeah,
you know? And it's before someone calls us out. I know that you know this, but I don't want to get yelled at about it. I understand roe is different than caviar. We keep saying caviar. Roe is not all roe is caviar. You know, so if this were explicitly caviar, it might be saying something with the amount, since caviar is a luxury food. You know, and it'd be like, oh, like the rich people, the oligarchs have cans of, you know, caviar the size of kiddie pools. Kiddie pools. Roe is not necessarily caviar. Fish eggs are just thrown on sushi as crunchy bits sometimes.
Yeah. This is dirt. This is like not making any kind of like real class statement, really. On anything. That's just not the space that it's playing in.
There's one little bit where the devil has a conversation about that when they talk about fairness.
Yes, yeah.
That kind of plays into that, but I don't think it's a central theme.
No. Like we see the fish that these come out of, like they're the size of like small buildings. Like that is not a sturgeon.
No. So you get up there. Ilya says, listen, there's something I left behind when I was here. My mom worked here. It's really important. And he goes and he moves his fan out of the way so we can step onto the roof and see the air full of these glimmering motes. You know, here, not stars, like, you know, sparkles, basically.
Yeah.
Indika explains this is the stroboscopic effect from the fan and the light. Here, this isn't magic. This is just a thing that's happening. And Ilya is disappointed. Again, it's not super subtle. You know, Ilya had faith in this thing as being this very special thing. It got explained.
And then, here's a super simple principle. Like, it's still pretty, right?
Yeah.
But it's, that's not what he brought her up here for, though. That was just kind of a kicker. What he finds, he pulls out a loose brick and gets this box that he left here. And it has little finger puppets of like little wooden frog heads. And you know, his has like a guitar on a ring. It's like, oh, this one's a singer, this one's a guitarist. And, you know, they sit casting shadows on this hatch that is pulled up, playing with these puppets. And Indika, you know, has her little singer frog sing a lullaby. And then Ilya collapses, like when she gets through this.
From bad arm. Indika fumbles, you know, tries to give him the last little bit of serum, but drops it. And she doesn't know what to do. He's passed out. He's clearly dying. She asks what she should do, and the voice says, pray, you know, very insidious.
Yeah.
And ultimately what she does is, like, this is a really beautiful scene. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
She puts him on a fish cutting conveyor belt towards the chopping blade. She's getting close to it. She's using this to amputate his arm. He wakes up at the last moment, and to stop him from seeing his arm get cut off, she kisses him. It's really artful and great.
Yeah.
You know, it's very sweet
Yep.
as an idea. Again, this person's very young. Like, if you let yourself have empathy for this character, like it is, this is a big scene for it.
And it and it's like subtle too, in terms of, in terms of it, like she doesn't go right for the kiss. Like he starts like stirring and, is kind of like in the process of waking up, wondering what's happening. She puts out her hand to like block his peripheral vision so he doesn't see the blade coming. And when he struggles more, that's when she turns that gesture into like scooping him up for a kiss. And then blade comes down, cut to black.
Really good.
Yeah.
This sends us into another retro bit. This is Mirko leading you across a pond. There. They'll make a bet. INDIKA, if you can get across without getting your skirt wet, Mirko will teach you to play the flute.
Yes.
And if you don't, a kiss. And this is a little rhythm jumping game. Real similar to the 2D one, except it's overhead. You're doing the timing based on, it's like Mega Man blocks.
Yeah.
Things that appear and disappear.
And when you reach the end, you've gotten by without getting your dress wet. Mirko pushes you into the water and then jumps in and they kiss.
Yep. Ilya wakes up in real times and is really upset. You cut off his arm, and this was going against God's plan. Oh, you were just jealous. You couldn't believe that God would perform a miracle for somebody like me. And he's kind of storming off, like getting ready to leave. And he basically is like, you won, you got your thing. God doesn't talk to me anymore since I met you.
Yeah.
A very profound statement. It's really, she's bringing up these questioning things.
Yeah.
And medicating him. Like you're dying of gangrene.
Yeah.
Like was what God was talking to you about.
That's how God is speaking to you. You've been high on morphine this whole time.
Your brain is dying. Yeah. Like your brain is dying. You're dying. He gathers up his things and he takes his arm, but not his cup. Great. And leaves. He just leave me alone. We're done.
Yeah. He just puts the arm into his backpack and it's sticking out, hand up.
Yeah. It moves too. I don't know if you caught that, but just a weird little bit of surrealness. It kind of waves.
Yeah. It's at a very particular moment later on is when it it starts moving. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. But remember the cup, he like that is where he saw God's plan, was looking into the light, playing off of the reflection in the water.
She hit him in the cup.
Calico cut pants ends with a wash to red light. Resonant. Yeah.
Calico cup pants.
So INDIKA's alone, and we're walking through these towering stacks of can labels, and the voice is mocking her. Like, oh, she has felt doubt for the first time. Did she do the right thing? Would he have really died? And, INDIKA is, praying in response to this, just begging for God to talk to her.
Yep. You ride an elevator up. There are two doors. They both go to the same place. They're doing that again. To leave the factory, we had to climb up in this tower by raising this lift to give ourselves points to hoist ourselves up to these rickety platforms. Put the lift to give ourselves plates to hoist ourselves up upon on these rickety platforms.
Yes.
And we get out. We're in the shadow of the Cathedral of St. John of Damascus. And this is where we're doing a video game thing that is really huge. We have to use this crane, move this crane that is holding up this platform to a bridge.
Yeah, the huge thing is a little bit later.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. It's been a couple weeks since I played this.
Yeah.
I wanted to get really ahead for Might and Magic.
Yeah, I played the back half of this today because I knew I would forget details. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so you move this to create a little bridge and you catch up with Ilya.
Yes.
And, when he was picking up his stuff, he has INDIKA's letter, and he's read it, but he doesn't, say it. He just kind of gives it back to her, and he doesn't send her away either. He just asked, so what happened to your hair? Because when she took the wimple off, we saw that it was cut short, and the flashbacks, the hair is like long, like it goes basically down to her knees. She said, "Oh, the prior has cut it off as a punishment."
Yeah. I reached this furnace room where Ilya's gone ahead and got up onto this doorway, and we can't quite reach it. The furnace room is attached to another room that is similar, and they infinitely loop with a. One of them is perpendicular to the other one.
Yes.
Once you go through the wall, you'd be walking, or through the door, you'd be walking on the wall if you're still in the original room, but it's the floor now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Very superliminal. Very trippy video game.
Yes. You can see yourself because you're walking into the same room in a different place. But the model that you see in the other room is like a multi-armed demon kind of thing.
It's very Malbolgia.
Yeah.
Like it looks a lot like or Vindicator rather. It looks like a specific spawn demon.
Yeah.
So you had to move this crate in a way that you can drop through this doorway onto it. And this allows you to go to where Ilya is. This is a good puzzle.
Yeah.
It's fine. The chapter ends with this weird old man with no eyebrows whistling into the camera. There he is.
Yeah.
We see the demon later.
We do, yeah.
So this could be him, but yeah.
Yeah, I made this note. It also the face is androgynous enough that it could be the Mother Superior. It's very bizarre just to end with this kind of long sequence of somebody looking straight into the camera and whistling.
Yeah. We come out beneath these two huge bells here. And above this tavern where Ilya used to play. Points down, that's the tavern I used to play at. So you mentioned. There's a pawn shop across from it owned by the tavern owner's brother. And their businesses depended on each other, but they hated each other because each one thinks the one of them is richer than the other.
Yeah. Prodigal son shit.
Yeah.
INDIKA says, like, hey, you're going to be able to play at the concert. You're going to play a concert there again. But Ilya doesn't respond. She's trying to buck him up. Like, hey, we're almost there.
We're going to Super Artifact. That's going to grow your arm back. And you'll become Kurt Connors, the lizard.
No downsides.
Yeah, no downsides. It's weird how much this game has to say about Spider-Man. Like, I understand there's a matter of faith there, like, can a spider be a man? But it's just, I was kind of surprised that they brought that in this late.
What does God say about the relationship between power and responsibility?
Yeah. What does God say within the relationship between the lizard and Spider-Man? The Sinister 666. So there's no bridge to the cathedral. This is where you have to use the construction crane to move two gigantic other bridges. This is unbelievably silly. Pretty cute. And the worker's like, what the hell are you doing? Because you're moving masonry. Like you're moving bridges.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're knocking
people
down,
would walk on.
You're knocking down scaffolding too. Like you're just completely ripping this place up to pick up one arch that is too short, but rotated in such a way that if you stack the other arch on top of it, it raises to make the level of the bridge. You're doing something very video gamey while people are screaming at you for ruining your town.
For fucking everything up.
Yeah.
You do this, you climb into the cathedral from this upper window. And the priest says, actually the Kudets is moving on. It's still here, but you missed it. We only serve breakfast until 11.
Moose out front should have told you.
Exactly. Very exactly. Yeah. INDIKA begs him, like, listen, we have to see this. You don't know what we've been through. And then, he's holding the line. He's basically a bureaucrat here. This is also a critique. If he were a real man of the faith, he would see people who are faithful and made this pilgrimage and wouldn't hold themselves to the rules.
Instead, he just says, there was plenty of time. Like, people came from other countries to see this.
Yeah. Why didn't you do this? And it's like, well, you don't know what we've been through. She asks if, listen, can I confess to you and have you keep it a secret? And he says, yes. And she tells him, listen, Ilya is escaped from a prison commune to see it. He really needs to see it.
Yes.
This is his only chance. He might be going back to prison. The priest says, okay, leaves the next room and immediately narcs on him.
Yeah. Comes back in with soldiers, right as INDIKA's reassuring him, saying like, the priest is hurt way worse. This is the point where the arm and the backpack is moving.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Priest comes back to the soldiers, and Ilya's like, fuck, Ilya takes INDIKA as a human shield. And INDIKA is like, we're joking. Like, he's not a prisoner. Please, this is, let's not do this. Listen, he has a knife. And the priest of all people is like, he only has one arm. Like, he can't hold her and shoot her and stab her at the same time.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So, orders the soldiers to shoot, and a shot rings out, and, just like the guy before, it doesn't hit INDIKA, ends up hitting the priest. Yeah,
misses.
Yeah.
Ilya runs into the room with the Kudets. And INDIKA holds his arm up to his stump while he kisses the vessel, crosses himself, so it might pop back on.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. There's no magical doodads. The soldiers come in. They're going to count to 3 before they bust in. The priest gives some explanation about how the miracle works in mysterious ways, but we don't hear it.
Yeah.
Like, we're still outside the room freaking out.
Yeah. And INDIKA says, like, hey, you need to give up. And he picks up the vessel that this thing is in, this kind of like ornate tin octagon thing, puts it in his bag, and then human shields Indika out of the room. And like on the count of 3, he shoves Indika toward the soldiers, and then throws his arm at the camera and runs.
Yeah, uses it to make an escape.
Yeah.
We get one final retro interlude. Indika has Mirko in her room. She slept with him, lost her virginity to him, regrets it, saying, listen, you need to leave because I'm going to be married. And he says, no, run away from me.
Yeah.
Give me the keys to the register so we can get enough money to run away.
Run away with me, not run away from me.
Yes, exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, run away with me. So Mirko sneaks down to the shop, and we get Pac-Man. Indika's father comes in. He chases you. You go pick up all the coins. If he gets you, you drop the coin. Or he makes you drop all the coins. You have to go pick them up like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
He's going to shoot you. Throw wrenches at you, rather, while this happens. If you get hit, you drop some coins like Sonic. You have to recollect them.
Yeah. It's easy enough, and it's super silly.
Yep.
And then Mirko runs outside, and the father, comes out. He's got a shotgun now. And he asks Indika, like, hey, like, do you know who this guy is? Do you know, like, why he's here? And Indika denies. He ends up asking 3 times, and, she denies. She pulls a Peter on him.
Yeah. 3 denials, and the father shoots him. Like, if he's nothing to you, he just shoots him in half.
Yes.
Kills her first love, and she lied because she was embarrassed.
Yes.
What happened. Kind of this original sin. This thing that, again, plays into the themes of this, like, do you have a choice if you have a reason for it? All of this stuff they're talking about. Like, this is something that is undeniably a sin, ultimately set her on this path.
Yeah.
Towards this, she's a kid. It's all very understandable.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Like it was her feelings overriding the emotion, or it was her feelings overriding, the logic of, the arranged marriage. Right.
Yes.
And, frozen in place by the nature of, her sin, not admitting to it, causes this, mostly innocent, at least innocent of anything deserving death.
Worth getting cut in half for.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a shotgun.
It's so gory in the pixel art when he's shot.
Yeah. It looks like something out of The Last Door.
Yeah.
So we cut back to the regular time. 2 guards are marching you to a jail cell. And one of them is telling the story of Makar the Scythe Man.
Yes.
He injured his son in an accident. He dropped a wardrobe on him. And this cost his son the use of his legs. And his son couldn't sleep because of the agony. So Makar asked the priest to bless him to end the suffering, and the priest denied it, saying, no, you should pray instead. So instead, he cut off his son's head with a scythe.
Yeah.
And he went on to go to heaven, the son, because he didn't have a chance to sin.
Yeah, the priest says this, right? Like, Makar, you kind of gave your kid a gift, sending him to heaven without any earthly suffering.
Yes, getting his legs broken and his head chopped off with a scythe.
Yeah, so just screaming in agony for a week before his dad murders him. Yeah.
Yes, and this made Makar take this to its logical extreme. And he cut off other sons' heads, his other sons, and then killed 4 of the neighbor kids.
Yes,
and the guard says he's a saint. A martyr gives 10 minutes of suffering for eternal life, while Makar gave up his own soul to give eternal life to others.
Yes. It's like there is in this parable, a contradiction in this. The most holy thing you can do, given the construction of this story, is monstrous. It is a thing that cannot be done because there's no cheat code to get from childhood to eternal paradise. Yeah.
Right. It's within the construction of the story and within the constructions of the agreed upon rules of this religion.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I understand that. I don't think that people who are religious actually believe that.
Right.
And are going around chopping off heads and stuff. It's part of the remit of this game to take these things that are accepted on faith and examine them from other angles and see, like, actually this rule does not work.
It's absurd
as applied to this. This whole thing has to be a lot more wishy-washy than this should be disorganized.
Yeah.
This is against organized religion in a way I am, and pretty agnostic to disorganized religion, but definitely doesn't think that the rules are helping.
No. Like it's absurd in like the Sartre sense, right?
Yes.
When it's laying out, and like Indika's like, so like, okay, so you think he's a saint? Like, why are you telling me this? Like, how does this apply? And the guard says, like, oh, you did the priest a favor. You killed him. He got to die an innocent victim. He was probably going to be canonized.
Yeah, he eventually would have done something bad. And you say, what happened to Makar? It's like, oh, he was hanged, and you'll be hanged too.
Yeah.
She begs him to let her go. Listen, we didn't kill the priest. And she says at some point, she said, then this is a big deal for her. Says, I'll repay you. And he says, how? And she doesn't say anything. And he has her turn around, checking her out, and then sing for him. And then she collapses. And the guard steps forward saying he's not going to hurt her. He is about to sex assault her and does. The light from the window turns red. It washes out the screen. The world crumbles. She is in hell. And the score in the upper left through nothing you've done starts draining.
Yes.
At this point, all your rituals don't matter.
Nope.
Like you're at the lowest you've ever been.
And, Indika's, dissociating. She is falling through this red void. And the demon we saw earlier is kind of falling a little bit after her. And they're just kind of having this detached conversation, just kind of, wrap up thoughts, basically. Yep. She's just like, hey, so I guess this pretty much seals it. I couldn't have done anything worse than what I did, killing a priest. I'm so low right now. I've clearly made the step from God to whatever you are.
Yep. And she says, oh, are you just going to say that there's no such thing as good or evil? When to her, my transition is 100% evil. Evil, honest, unfair.
Evil.
He comes back. Like he says, evil, there's not a drop of evil in despondency, avarice, or debauchery. Like dishonest, a dog is honest. It eats when it's hungry. It bites when it's scared. It copulates when there's someone to do it with.
Yeah. Echoing a line from before.
Yes.
Yeah. She says, no, I'm talking about evil and dishonesty for personal gain. Like, you are over intellectualizing this, and she says, well, okay, a life of transgressing against yourself, of denying yourself what you want, denying that you even want it just for eternal life in heaven. It's the same thing. You're robbing yourself.
Yeah. Does a tree, she asks about fairness with this, and he's, fair, like, does a tree get angry if it has 1,000 leaves and another tree has 1,001? Or is it fair when one guy rolls a 2, and he's angry at a guy who rolled a 6 on dice? If you take emotion out of it, this word doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It is all random chance and shit that happens to us and circumstances that ping pong us around.
Yes. Yeah. And she asks, like, okay, so what about what's happening to me right now? It's vile. Like, you don't have to think about it to know that this is wrong. And he raises the point, like, oh, well, there can be no joy without suffering. You can't get rid of poverty and leave everyone happy and wealthy.
Yeah. And she, at this point, she's like, okay, leave me alone. He says, you'd love to, but I can only disappear when you stop wanting me to. Basically when you accept. The void fades to white. The guard gets up, puts his pants back on. Indika asks if she can go now. And he says, no. He's not going to keep his end of the bargain.
No. Let's just say, fear not the justice of earth, but that of heaven. Right?
Yeah. Indika watches as the demon comes and crawls down from the ceiling, drops into the guard and ravages him.
Yeah. And it waves Indika by with one of its arms while the other ones are, pummeling him, pinning him down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you walk out and we can kind of look back and see, like, oh, that's not a demon. There's a wardrobe on top of him. Like, this unit of shelves, Indika, took the opportunity and pulled it down on him to
Indika did this.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we're in first person and we walk down these alleyways full of drunk and destitute people. We eventually reach this pawn shop where Ilya's there, drunk, and he has a trumpet. He has a big horn. He's pissed himself.
He's like, wait, did I undo my trousers? He says.
Nope, you forgot.
Yeah. And, she says, like, hey, where's the cadets? He's like, oh, I pawned it. They didn't even give me 5 rubles for it, but I bought this trumpet. And I've already mastered the guitar. I'm moving on to brass.
Yeah, so I'm moving on to brass. Already mastered the guitar. And starts blatting through the horn. It sounds like shit.
Yeah.
Indika goes in the pawn shop and is like, can I get the cadets? And the guy's like, oh, I want 25, rubles for it. Or we can do 20 for the coudettes and a ceramic rooster. You're bargaining with him.
Yeah.
She grabs the coudettes and the pawn shop owner is distracted because Ilya comes in saying that the horn doesn't work.
Yeah.
He had thrown up in it. We are purely in, again, dark comedy.
Yes.
Here at the end.
Yeah. There are some very bad things happening.
Yes.
And Indica, turns the cadets and she's by this mirror. We're still in first person and we see that her reflection is the demon. And, we can press the buttons to make her, do the cross and kiss it 3 times, but nothing changes. The demon doesn't go away.
Yep. So we can press it again and shake it and little faith coins come out, giving us points.
Yeah.
You can, again, it's not super subtle. You can do the ritual as much as you want, level up, but it's irregardless of your circumstances, what's actually happening to you.
The demon's still there while you are clinging to the idea of this faith.
The demon's still there. You still got sex assaulted. Ilya is now still a broken man. Everything is, all the poor and destitute people you saw on the way here, there are still people like the guard. Yeah. None of that stuff changes. You can just get higher points.
You can just get higher points. It's you're drinking salt water. You're eating dirt. It does not affect anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So she opens it up and finds it empty. And at this point only, she looks at the mirror and it's just herself. The demon is gone.
The doubt is gone.
Yep.
Like it's. I see the demon not as the devil, capital D, capital S, Satan. That's her doubt. And
it's certainly her. Like it's definitely not an external entity.
Yes.
It's her doubt. It's her truer self. She has been pretending to. The characters in this game engage in religion when they are just talking philosophically. Like that is the most religious thing they do.
Yeah. Everything
else that is, the rosaries and the ritual and the rules and the hierarchy is bullshit in this. She is not a perfect nun. She gets up, her rosary beads scatter to the ground.
Yeah.
This is the end. We hear ticking in the clock and the screen goes to black. She's not incomplete now because she has fallen from being a nun. She's the person she always was. She's just not pretending.
Yeah. She didn't need the doubt anymore. And she stopped wanting it to go away. She is the doubt. Yeah.
It's not even like she doesn't need the doubt. She's internalized the doubt.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
She has faith in the things that she actually believes to be true, not a false faith.
But the fallibility of the faith was confirmed when she opened.
Yes.
When she opened the thing and found that it was empty. Just like, there was nothing in there. I only bring that up specifically because he says, but I will only disappear when you stop wanting me to, which is the acceptance, right?
Yeah. Accept yourself. These are the questions you have. These are the things that are of interest to you. These are natural. You wanting to bone this young man, natural. You being scared to confess to your father that you lost your virginity on the eve of your wedding, natural.
Yeah.
These are all things. You are the dog.
Yeah.
You are at the mercy of these forces. It's not arguing. If you take that to its logical conclusion, it gets crazy.
Yeah.
It gets, there's no personal responsibility at all. But it is all of this guilt and churning that you've been doing for yourself in favor of these points is worthless.
Yes.
And now that it's gone, you are unburdened.
So this is bleak, right? We have 2 people at the lowest points of their life, and you have no sense that things are going to get better inherently by everything that you have seen, but I can't help but see this as kind of like what it is saying is like liberatory for her,
which is.
Yeah. But
it's better than being conflicted. It's a parallel tract.
Yes. Yeah.
The two don't. I think that this is saying something more about how those two things don't affect each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than one of. So
and
both
now
ways.
She's unburdened. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that she's unburdened, that is not going to make the material conditions of her life.
Oh
better.
God, no.
That's not going to do anything. She just doesn't have the effect of being conflicted. On the philosophical side, she is at peace.
Yes.
It was never going to affect anything else.
Yeah. No, just at the far end of like, now that she has made this one little tweak inside of her, things are going to be better for her. The logical end of that is like, it's a fucking secret.
Yeah, exactly.
It's power of positive thinking. Yeah.
It's just her tamping down these doubts and everything was not providing her with happiness.
Yeah.
And the situation she's in now is not going to provide her with happiness.
Right.
That is the wrong tree to bark up.
Yeah.
For this,
and like there is also, I read and feel a little bit of sadness in this too, because like, yes, she has integrated, right? But like this voice is gone, only when you stop wanting me to, which kind of logically implies that she turned to start wanting it around. And, now the voice is gone. It is just her because it was always her. She is still alone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that her wanting it was her wanting it on like a level.
Yeah.
And the reason why she doesn't want it anymore is because she got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she got the integration, and that's why she doesn't want the demon. Mm-hmm. I didn't think of it as a tragic thing of her still wanting the demon.
Yeah.
But it's undeniably fucking tragic.
Yeah.
Like there's no light escapes this ending.
No, not at all.
Like I don't, one of the games with the bleakest outlook on humanity that I think we've played.
Yeah, like if we didn't just do Scald, I think that this would be the bleakest thing we've done. But like this hits harder, even though it doesn't swing as far, because it is dealing with real human shit.
Yeah,
right.
And it's more. There's more text to it.
Yeah,
it's a narrative game. Like it is more literary, so it's going to have little bit of more strength in that respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's up, in the pathologic hole of like just very, very bleak without integrating its gameplay as well.
Yeah.
Undeniably super good game. One of the best like walking sims I've played. I wish it was much more of a walking sim. Mm-hmm. And the way that this is expressed, I think is really artful in a way that takes some of these ideas that are not anything new to me, presents them in a way that is still very compelling and well acted. Like everything doesn't have to be a brand new idea. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to solve things to be worth kind of exploring. I think it hits that and does that really, really well.
Yeah. It's not like cutting new ground generally, but yeah, I was super
except for those Newgrounds-esque retro sections. It's cutting new ground with that Pac-Man bullshit. Really cutting new grounds with the worst platformer you've ever played.
But it's not cutting new grounds, philosophically or anything. But I was just super impressed when I played this. Like, just it felt like one of the most complex carbs I've gotten in the form of video game in a while. While still agreeing with what you're saying about the play, I wish that it was more integrated. I don't think that the half measures that they kind of went with here were sufficient. I think that it does fail as a game while being incredibly successful as an expression, I guess.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
It's interesting thinking about this in terms of its maturity and comparing it to other games that are similarly mature about some of the stuff. And what's interesting, so when I think about this compared to a Sir Bronte or a Pentiment, it is a lot of that kind of maturity comes across in presentation.
Yeah.
To me, it's not necessarily that I think that the ideas expressed here are more complicated or nuanced than those in Sir Bronte or Pentiment in terms of religion. It's that the presentation is so much more artful.
Yeah.
And when I say presentation, I mean not how it integrates into a game, because that's very artless. I mean literally visually, like visually and performance wise.
Yeah.
It feels like a really good movie. Which can be damning. I don't mean it to be damning because it's still really good.
Yeah.
But that it kind of feels like a really good movie compared to those games. It's not that it's so much more mature than that to me. It's that it's just a really good expression of it.
Yeah. It's like take a Tarkovsky movie and like move it like 15% toward popcorn. And I think you're getting there with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Except every once in a while you have to push some crates around.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what those movies needed. You just, when you watch one of those movies, you should get up and push some crates around your backyard about every 15 minutes or so for the whole time. Good game. Yeah, I recommended if you got to the end of this and you still haven't, if you ignored us.
Yeah.
Still think it's worth playing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, just there's a whole kind of element to this visually and performance wise that the summary just does not get. And I think that you're gonna, just like INDIKA, just standing there, like looking at the clocks, and then just like out, off off to one corner, framed in the doorway, is, Ilya blatting drunkenly into his horn as the clocks tick.
Yeah.
Like, just there are choices that are not going to come through in the description. Yeah.
There's a post-credit scene. Did you get the post-credit scene?
Was INDIKA invited into the Avengers Initiative?
No, that would be. I'm not making a joke.
Oh no, I didn't.
Oh, yeah. No, there's. It's a flashback to Ilya playing guitar. It's done in the 8-bit style.
Oh.
In the bar, it's kind of like a mini game where you can press buttons to play certain chords, and you play like dog shit for nobody, and they kick you out. Ilya was lying about was also being a kid and bragging to the girl.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
About
Yeah.
So. We just get that again as a little twist of the knife. Just like, no, also, he was also never good at this. Everyone's just fucking, saying truths that they're comfortable with because they cannot, or saying lies they're comfortable with because they can't handle the truth of this. In the space of hormones.
Yeah. But it's in a super understandable way, right? Like, it's just relatable to, puff yourself up. Yeah.
It's a funny mini game because you can press buttons to play the different chords and nothing you do sounds okay.
Doesn't make what he lost, the ability to play any less tragic.
No,
though,
it just makes I mastered the guitar and now I'm going to master the trumpet funny.
It does. Yeah. Thank you for going on this ride with me, Gary.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Good game.
Good game.
We were canny about what games we picked for this, since Might and Magic 6 is turning out to be 1,000,000 years.
Yep, it is so long.
It's so long. I think that's going to be a really fun episode. I like that game with a bunch of caveats and things to say about it. I think I can comfortably say you don't want to miss that episode.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of things to say about that, and it's a really interesting game. So if you want to hear that episode, the way you're going to be able to do it is by becoming a patron.
Yes.
This is kind of skipping around a little bit in the end matter, but patron, $5 a month, you get the premium episodes. Everyone's going to get the generalities of that. But if you want to hear the full play-by-play, $5 a month helps us out. It lets us keep doing this in a literal sense.
Yes.
And we think you get really good value for it.
We do.
I think that episode's going to be a good one.
Yeah. If you have thoughts about this month's games, by the time this is coming out, I think you got like a day or so. The deadline is always the 15th of the month. This month's games being, oh God, what did we do last week? Hammer Fight, INDIKA, and then the premium episode being Might and Magic 6. And if you have thoughts about next month's games, which we're doing a rerun of our Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance episode, we're talking about the NES Rygar game, and the premium episode is going to be The Suffering. Go to Duckfeed.tv/contact, write in by the 15th of next month. If you have thoughts about multiple games, separate them into multiple responses, and we tend to prefer responses that are specific and concise.
Yeah. If you're disappointed about us running our rerun, just flashback. We did a State of the Union talking about that. This is so we can avoid burnout because we are going to a convention.
We are.
We're going to be at the Midwest Gaming Classic. That is going to be April 5th, 6th, and 7th. There, we are having our panel on that Saturday at night. It's going to be at 7 p.m. on the bonus stage. Afterwards, we're having a meetup. Details coming very soon. It's just about locked away. We're not having a table this year, so we will not be posted up. We will be walking around. Come say hi to us. We don't bite. If you want to get FaceTime specifically, come to the meetup.
Yes.
That night. But yeah, we're going to be there, and we are doing that rerun thing. So we are not trying to do double episodes and prep for the live show we're going to do and prep for a game at the same time.
Yeah.
So apologies that is disappointing, but it is the reality of us not burning ourselves out.
So the nice part is it's making a huge difference. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, it's a big deal, and we're not going to do it all the time.
Nope.
It's just for conventions and stuff. Cool. I would like to record a little thing, a bumper for the beginning of this episode where we talk about this.
Yes.
Reiterate it. If you are hearing this, it is now possible to join the Patreon through Apple. Don't do this.
No, don't do it.
Yeah, Apple will take 30% of the fee, and there's no advantage.
No, none.
To it. So please don't do that. A couple people expressed this. We got a couple exit surveys. Like, this is not something that you have to do. And it's not something we're encouraging. Go to the website and do it. And then we'll give you an RSS that you can plug in to other things. You do not have to do it through your iPhone just because you're in the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, you don't have to do it through the iPhone app specifically.
Yes.
That's what this is. You can still listen on an iPhone podcast app. It is specifically the Patreon app because of Apple's asinine policies. They also put a 75-day hold on the funds that way. I really wish there was just a way to opt out and say, like,
very much so.
I am fine foregoing that revenue just to direct people to the, to the website. Just use your web browser if you're doing it on mobile. And you'll be able to back us the normal way. Also, like resubscriptions, when you renew, that does not like switch over to that. So if you backed the old way, there's nothing that you need to do. Just anybody new who's coming in, or if you are coming back, do not use the Patreon app to subscribe to us.
Yeah. It's important. We're not doing that. We're not for it.
Nope.
We don't like it. We don't want any of your money going to Apple.
Nope. They don't deserve it. We make our shows.
Yeah. They didn't do shit. Other than that, though, you can rate and review us. Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, anywhere else you find. You can tell people about us. We appreciate that. You can join us in thanking our producer, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen.
And what should they watch out for until next time?
Until next time, watch out for puking in your trumpet.